What is fun? What is happiness?
That's fucking awesome way to end it, eh?
I would have gotten a 62 if I didn't do that.
Yeah.
Close to it.
Is it something you've lost along the way? Is there a car that can help you remember? To let you feel the sun shining above. To flow through corners as if they were a part of you. A car that eggs you on to play. Finds a way to bring you back to the moment you are living. The Mazda Miata, the car that can help you remember.
All right, here we go. 1999 Mazda Miata review. Before I get into the interior and all that good stuff, let you know that I actually own this car. I bought it 6 years ago, and I'll try to be as unbiased as I could possibly be. I think it should be pretty easy considering the fact that I actually didn't want to keep this car after I bought it. I had regret buying it, and I was considering selling it. When I was looking for this car, I wanted a lightweight rear-wheel drive sports car, and I had that before. I had a Scion FRS. I sold this car for it. I had other small sports cars, and that's like the formula I like. So I was like, I'll get them out of there cheap and whatnot. And every time I test drove this car, it was always on a nice sunny day with the top down and on a back road, and you couldn't ask for anything more. And I was like, yeah, it's Mazda Miata. It's great. And I bought this car in the wintertime, and then when I test drove it then, I was like, oh, wintertime, it didn't matter. I was just focused on, is the car okay? Is this a good car? Like, is it not going to fall apart on me? So then when I drove it off the lot after I bought it, I instantly had regret because I was like, I'm used to small cars, but the Miata is like the smallest car you're going to probably ever drive in your life. And I felt more vulnerable than anything else I'd ever been in. Other small sports cars, I felt fine. I was like, they're small. I'll take the risk. But the Miata, it's like you really feel vulnerable in this car. It's especially an older one. It's really rickety in here. I mean, they crash well, but like I said, you don't think that when you're driving it. You're like, oh, the thing rattles a lot. There's no roll bar behind me. There's like nothing here. There's not much. There's just the steel bars here for the top. They're not that strong. They're strong enough, but yeah, if an SUV hits you, SUV behind you, you're like, I've never felt so vulnerable. Like I said, I'm not used to I don't drive motorcycles, and I imagine this is probably the closest thing to a motorcycle that you can get on four wheels. And if you drive motorcycles and you're used to that risk, then you probably think, oh yeah, this is great, this is way safer, and it is, than a motorcycle. But yeah, that's why I regretted it at first. I learned to love the car, and I accepted the risk as time went on. But yeah, there's still days where I drive this car, especially on the highway, I'm just like, yeah, hopefully they stop behind me, because I'm probably dead. So yeah, I mean, that's probably the most important thing to consider when you are buying a Miata. You don't really think about it. You might think about it, like, oh, it's a really small car, but driving it, it's just, yeah. But like I said, it's one of the funnest cars to drive. I don't get into that in the review. So how's the interior on the Miata? It's pretty good. I mean, considering the price point and whatnot, like, really can't ask for a much better interior. I mean, in terms of like build quality and how everything feels and touches, it's held up really well compared to other cars this age. Like I said, don't really have any problems with it, like normal wear and tear. But like you see other cars that are this age, and it's like the interiors are like falling apart, and it's you see it time and time again. And it's not because people aren't taking care of them. It's just because they just can't hold up to the test of time because of their build quality and the materials they use and whatnot. But the Miata, I even look at older ones, and it's like so many of them are in such good shape compared to other cars, even that are newer, like 10 years newer. I see rips in the seats and whatnot. So yeah, Miata's held up pretty well, and it feels good. Ergonomically, well, you get in this car, and like, if you've never been in a Mazda Miata, you see it's small on the outside, and you get inside, and you're like, wow, like I'm in my coffin right now. This thing is, I fit okay. I'm not the tallest guy, but like I said, if you're probably over 6 foot, you'd fit, but you probably, you're gonna probably have headroom problems. You might have to lower the seat a little, but you have to go and check it out. Miata, you have to sit in it to see if you fit. It's not something you can even explain. It's, like I said, once you're in it, you get comfy, and it's not too bad. So you're not doing much else but driving in this car. Like, you get in this car, there's not much extra room to kind of like you're driving. This car is just focused around getting you to drive. And from how small the interior is and just how you sit in the car and everything and how loud it is and how rickety it is, it's like, yeah, you're not doing much else but probably driving this car, because it's like, it's not much else you would want to do in a car like this. It's not really meant for cruising. And I mean, it is on a nice day with your top down, but like I said, it's not the car for that. This is a sports car. Steering wheel feels nice. All the gauges, the buttons, they feel good. Can't really complain there. Like, system doesn't. I have the Bose system, which is an add-on, and it sounds okay. It's not the best Bose I've ever heard by any means, but it's okay. It's not bad. I definitely heard worse sound systems in a 1999 car, or 90s or early 2000s. The seats. How are the seats? If you read online anything, the 1999 and 2000 Miatas are known for having the worst seats put in a Miata, which is actually a good thing and a bad thing. Miata seats, I've sat in like pretty much every generation, and they're really comfortable seats for the most part. Miata seats are really good. So saying that these are the worst Miata seats doesn't mean that they're bad seats. And I would say, yeah, they are the worst Miata seats, but are they bad seats? No. They're pretty comfortable. Do they hold you in that well? Not really, but the car's so small that if you are hitting corners, you can kind of brace yourself easy. But like I said, I've driven this car 8-10 hours on a road trip, and I had no problems with my back or anything, and it felt comfortable enough. Like I said, yeah, they're not the best seats in the world, and if I had the money, I probably would swap them with a different year, especially like the 01 to 05 Miatas. They're definitely nicer, but is it worth it? Is it really that much better? I mean, I don't know. I haven't driven long distances in other Miatas, so I don't. Maybe it is worth it, just not right now. The convertible top on this is easy to use. You just pull down these two latches right here, and you can pull it down with one hand, and you can pull it up with one hand, and it's easy to use. Much prefer this over having a power top, at least on a car this small. Like I said, the car this small doesn't need to have a power top. I can push it up and back with one hand much easier, faster than a power top. And he said, one less thing to go wrong, so I'm all about that. Storage space in the Miata, it's not bad. You got a little center console here, you got the cup holder right here, and you can store some stuff right here. You actually have some storage in the back if you have your top up. I've actually fit in a small keyboard back here, like just laid right in, so it's big enough to fit normal size keyboard, and I even fit some stuff on top of the keyboard. So like I said, it's a decent size. And the trunk space, I also have this windbreaker too, which is nice. I actually put stuff right here, over here on the windbreaker. The trunk space on the Miata is not that big, as you can imagine. I've fit a week's worth of groceries in here, no problem, and I've gone camping for the weekend. It really helps. You got to utilize the space behind the seats. There's, if you use that space, you have a lot more in the Miata than you can imagine, at least on these older ones. All right, let's start this bad boy up and see how the Miata drives. Sounds pretty good. I got a eBay muffler on here, so it's a little bit louder than stock. But the Miata has a good sounding exhaust stock. Well, the engine sounds good, I'm not a fan of every four-cylinder engine like sound, but I like a lot of them. But the Miata has a really good, has a nice tone to it. I really enjoy it. So them with good exhaust, they really sound good. So. And I apologize in advance for my camera shaking more than usual. I'm using the same exact mount that I did in my other two car videos, and yeah, it shook a little bit, but I even added bracing and an extra mount to this thing to try to help stabilize it, but this car just shakes. The whole car just shakes so much. It's not the most, for a 99 Miata, it was pretty rigid for its time for what it was, but like I said, to add rigidity, they would have had to add weight and yada yada. So this car just, like I said earlier, like it feels rickety. And you're gonna see from me driving this thing. So yeah, let's get the power. Power on a Miata, you'll always hear, oh, okay, they're slow. Oh, they're so slow. Now, maybe on like a 1990 Miata with the 1.6, I never drove them. They were pretty slow, but once you get to the 99, it has 140 horsepower, and honestly, it's fast enough. It does 0 to 60 in around 8 seconds, give or take, depending on which data you're looking at. But I have no problems passing people in this car. Yeah, is it as fast as a Corvette? No, but it's not. I don't think it's slow. people really rag on the power of this car, and that's the first thing I thought. Like, oh, I'm expecting to be slow when I test drove it. I had a Scion FRS, which is also considered not that fast, but this car is not much slower than the FRS, and it's a 1999. So, like I said, yeah, would I like more power? Would this car feel better with like 180, 190? Yeah, it would feel perfect. Not perfect, but yeah, like 180 to 200, this car would be great, but it's not bad. You said I have no problems passing people. I can get up and merge on the highway. Like a really slow car, like you can't even do that stuff. So yeah, not too bad. It has most of its power comes on an older 4-cylinder. Most of its power comes on above 3,000. It doesn't even start to wake up. So when I drove a newer Miata, like the 16 plus, and their engines are so torquey compared to this, like down low, like compared to this, it's like if you're used to driving modern 4-cylinders, especially Mazdas, like they're just so much torquier down low than 4-cylinders used to be. Well, any cars. The cars are just getting torquier and torquier down low. So it's easier to drive them below 2,000, 3,000. You could kind of be lazy with your shifting. This car, you gotta keep it above 3. You gotta, it doesn't, unless you're going really slow. So yeah, the power's not bad. As I said, it comes on around like 4,000 RPMs and really starts to wake up and hit its power band. It's geared relatively short, 4.3 in the rear, so these gear ratios help it out, get it up to speed. Yeah, pretty loud in here. The newer Miatas are a lot quieter. If you're, I'm just comparing it to a newer Miata. It's about the only thing you could really compare this car to, besides other convertibles. But they've come a long way with how loud, well, they're not that much quieter. They're quieter, but like, yeah, this car is pretty loud. How's the shifter? Talk about the shifter. Shifter in Miata, you'll hear really good. Some of the best shifters you're gonna have, but I don't think it's the best shifter. Some people say Miata has like the best shifter. Nah, it's really good. It's short throws. They're pretty little. They got a bit of notch to them. Really mechanical feeling. Again, I had a Scion FRS and I thought that shifted a little better. And in newer car, better synchros and whatnot, so of course I would imagine it would, but I think even the newer Miatas, some people will say, oh, the old Miatas with the 5-speed, which is what I have, a 5-speed, shift the best, and I think the newer 6-speeds, especially the newest one, definitely shifts a little better. It's not like night and day. That's basically how I see it. Like, if you're comparing this to newer Miatas, they've just gotten relatively better and better and better. Like every generation, they get a little bit quieter, a little bit smoother, faster, more rigid. My biggest gripe with this car when you're daily driving it is just, I wish it was a little bit more rigid, not as bouncy, shaky. Like I said, this whole car shakes. You hit bumps and stuff, like the A-frame starts to shake and stuff. And I've been in other convertibles, and yeah, they're not as rigid, but like this thing is like another level of like just, you get almost a back massage on like certain roads in this car. It's pretty bad. But it comes with the territory owning an older Miata, so. Yeah, it's not the happiest revving motor. It does the job. It's not like, oh, I want to be up there. It's not like an S2000 or some Honda where you're like, or an RX-8. You're like, it just revs so smooth. Yeah, this car revs pretty good. Once you get up there, it's like, all right, I'm happy. I'm not too sad, but I'm not like that willing to rev. But I'll get the job done for you, buddy. I find myself driving this car harder than any other car I've ever driven. It's just, this car just begs you to like just rip on it. Like I'm just just taking these corners here, just man. Oh, the brakes. How are the brakes? Good. The thing about the old Miata brakes, it's like, this car stops well. You wouldn't think it would, because if you're used to driving newer cars, it's almost like this car doesn't have power brakes compared to the newer cars. They're so sensitive. They give you so much extra boost. And this car, it's like, you gotta hit the brakes harder. Like, you gotta actually push on the pedal. Like, I mean, that's like most older cars, obviously, but this is a 99, so it's like, yeah, no, but if you actually put your foot down, this thing will brake. It's kind of deceiving, because I was like, oh, this car doesn't brake that well, but like, yeah, you gotta put more into it. It's like the newer Miata, you just touch the pedal and that thing just starts to, it almost gives you too much braking power in a way. All right, so now we're on the highway. getting on the highway, see how loud it sounds, kind of get a feel for it. I'm going 60 right now, and this is probably the worst place. It's fun driving a Miata on the highway. It's not bad, but like I said, I've driven this car 8 hours before straight, and it's not, you know, it's not the place it wants to be. It wants to be on a back road, ripping up a back road, but like I said, it's not horrible. You feel, like I said, you feel really vulnerable on the highway, especially being around a bunch of trucks and whatnot, but I don't know, you get over it. It's yeah, it's loud. This is not a highway cruiser. This is not where this car wants to be. Like I said, it does the job. You can go pretty fast on the highway. You corner, you know, handles fine. It's just not the most refined thing to be on a highway. It's not a BMW or something like 5 Series eating up highway miles. But yeah, it gets the job done. So yeah, the Miata is 50-50 weight distribution and has double wishbone up front and back. Not the most rigid car. Really low center of gravity. Really short wheelbase, like 89.2 inches, give or take. So extremely short wheelbase. So this car just turns in. Like this car really does feel like a not exactly like a go-kart, but as close as you're gonna get to a go-kart. This car is very neutral around corners. There's like, I've only gotten it onto understeer and autocross on like a super tight corner. This car is very neutral around corners. Yeah, and the 50-50, like I always heard about a 50-50 weight distribution. It's like a huge thing for Mazda, even BMW. Anyone that has it, they like to tell you and talk about it. And yeah, when I first took a corner, my first Miata, I noticed it right away because I had an FRS and they have 53-47. They're not 50-50, and they turn in well. But like the Miata was just like it turned in some like nothing like I've ever felt before. He said you mix in the short wheelbase and that 50-50. It just, this car, it's hard to explain. This car, like on a back road, just, there's really nothing else that handles like it. Like the fact that just because of the size alone, mixed with good weight distribution, good, like it's just it's a great car. Like the only other car I've driven that like I felt like, oh yeah, this competes with the Miata is probably the Mini Cooper, and that's front wheel drive. Yeah, so it's hard to compare the Miata to their stuff because there's nothing that really compares to it. When I first drove the Miata, I was just like on a back road, like wow. Like this car almost feels like there's no car when you first drive it. Like it's just, it really does feel like their slogan, horse and rider in one. It really doesn't feel like a gimmick when they say that. Ride quality. So I have, this car has, you can get this car with 15-inch, you can get this car with 15-inch rims or 14-inch rims stock. This car has the 14-inch rims. So there's a bit of sidewall. So the ride quality isn't that bad. It's firm. It's firm, but it doesn't kill you. The worst thing about this car is just the rigidity and how much it shakes over bumps. Like that's actually the worst part about the ride quality. Like actually over bumps, the suspension's really not that bad. It's really not that bad at all, especially given how much of a sidewall I have with those 14-inch rims. This car also has the Torsen limited slip, which I highly recommend. But if you don't get one, if you buy one without a Torsen, then it's, you know, I don't know, it's up to you if you really want one. You usually spend $500 to $1,000 trying to get one even used. But yeah, I really like having it. It really helps out, especially if you're trying to get sideways and have a little fun. Steering, yeah, this car's got a really tight rack, especially for a, it's got a really tight rack, especially for a 1999. You know, I had a Prelude. That was front wheel drive car. I can't really compare it. Like I said, even my Prelude, like yeah, that right steering ratio was pretty tight. But like yeah, this car is not as tight as like a newer car. Newer cars now are like the ratios are crazy. But yeah, it's pretty tight. Steering feels good. Still hydraulic. It's got pretty good feedback. Yeah, I like the steering. It's not the best steering I've ever felt in the world. Like it's not. I think people rave about it too much, but it's as good as, like you said, no complaints. It's as good as you'd ever really need it to be. Shift again with the shifter. Is the best shifter I've ever felt in my life? No, I thought my FRS was better. I think newer Miata's better. Actually, even preferred my Prelude maybe a little bit more. About the same. That thing shifted well too. Yeah, but it's good. I got no complaints. We're gonna hit this shit. Red line it. We got it. And we're on a tight road here, and I almost messed my third shift up trying to concentrate on this camera. Yep, it happens. Yeah, this car just wants to be on a back road. Like where I am right now, this is where you drive a Miata on this road, it's like there's no other car I'd want to be in. I wish the top was down, but wouldn't be able to hear me as well, so I'm doing this for you guys. But yeah, you know, if you're driving on back roads a lot, like this is the only, you know, like, oh, why would I want anything else? But like, you know, for a daily driver, if you got to drive this thing, actually, this is a great city car. Actually, I lived in a city in a while, and this is actually a great city car. How small it is, and you're not going that fast in a city, so this is actually a really good city car. But if you're driving this on like the highway a lot, and you're going stoplight to stoplight, like you can kind of start to forget why you even own a Miata. Let's get a little sideways there. Not too much, but it's dry out, you know. I have all-season tires on this thing, and it's still, you know, so, you know, I can still get it out pretty easy, but not too easy. But yeah, if you ever, you know, this car stock, it has a bit of roll, it's firm, but it's not, it doesn't, you know, actually the newer Miata seems to roll. I don't know the exact spring rate offhand of what the new Miata is, but the new Miata definitely feels like, the newer ones definitely feel like they roll more than this one. Not like a whole lot more, but this one is a little bit firmer than the newer ones. So yeah, could have used a suspension upgrade if you really are into cornering. Yeah, the thing about this suspension is, unless you are like autocrossing it, or really, you've got really sticky tires on this thing and you're really giving it the beans, like the suspension, you know, like I said, it does pretty good for daily driving. And like say, you're on these windy roads, you don't really notice a body roll. The car sets, I don't even, it's firm enough that like it, yeah, I feel it roll just a little and it sets. Like I don't really, on not super, even on super tight windy roads, it's still like, you don't really notice the roll. It's not a big deal. It's like, and again, the car is not as stiff as it would be if you were to put a stiffer set of coilovers on here. So for daily driving, even spirited driving, like the stock Miata suspension is really good. Unless you really wanted to just, you really are into just ripping it just that much harder, and you want to put really sticky tires on this thing. I think part of it is to do because I don't have super grippy summer tires on this thing. If I did, yeah, it would definitely roll a little bit more, but even then, I don't know. If I were to put a suspension on this thing, would I put something that much stiffer than this? Nah, I don't think so. I think just something a little bit firmer, but nah, this is almost pretty good stock. I just like the look of lowered cars, so that's really that's the only reason I would ever lower this car, because I just like the look more. But suspension-wise, a little bit firmer for my taste, but I mean, it's good. It's good. The stock suspension out of the box is really good for driving on the public roads, not for tracking, but public road driving. Like it gives you a good mix of like, yeah, not gonna kill you over bumps, but also you're not gonna feel it rolling too much on back roads that are like sweeping, and except only when you get into like autocross and you're really tight corners that you're really hitting it hard, that you would ever be like, oh, this thing has too much roll or yada yada. But if you're not doing that, then yeah, I don't know why you really would need aftermarket suspension. Did I talk enough? Let's put the window down, see if we can hear that. Hear my awesome eBay muffler. And we're slowed up by a truck. That happens a lot in a Miata. Find yourself getting on a back road, everyone's driving too slow. Everyone's driving too slow on a back road in a Miata. If you're in a Miata, everyone is driving too slow on a back road. Unless they're like in a sports car or something, or they're crazy and they're really ripping their SUV or truck. I've seen that happen before. Something about the Miata just triggers truck owners and people with bigger cars. They see it, and it's like a primal thing for them, and they just, they want to play. I don't know, they want to, I don't know, maybe it just reminds them how much fun they're not having in their big old hunk of sheet metal. But yeah, they see the Miata in this little car. You know, usually most Miata drivers drive them pretty quick. You know, it's hard not to rip this car around, and yeah, it just triggers something in them. You know, like, I don't know if it's like they're trying to chase their prey, but it's like they're not gonna catch you, so just, you know, just give up. And yeah. But yeah, no, you notice, I noticed a lot of like SUVs and just cars in general, like more than I've had other sports cars. Just other sports cars, it's like, yeah, other sports cars will mess you, but the Miata, it's like everyone wants to race you in a Miata, it seems like. It's cool though, you know what I mean? I let them try to have their fun, at least on the back roads. Like, on a straight line, yeah, a lot of cars are probably gonna beat you. But like I said, if you're on a highway, even you have the handling advantage. Like, you know, if you keep your momentum, like even on a highway, like you'd you'd be surprised how how fast of a car you could keep up with. And even in a Miata, if you know how to drive this thing and like you hold your momentum and you're weaving in and out of traffic, whatever, like yeah, even a faster car, you know, it's gonna be hard for them to keep up. This is just the handling of this car, and just how small it is and how much momentum you can hold on to, just like you would in a normal race. So yeah, more bumps. Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, this is a pretty rough road here, and you see the camera. Again, this car is not the most rigid, and it's older now too on top of it, so it's rickety in here, and it's part of the Miata charm, I guess. I don't really consider it charming, but you get used to it. When I first bought the car, I was like, oh, this really sucks, but it's something you just learn to live with. It's not the end of the world, you know. Like I said, people at one point were riding around in horse and carriage, so and people still are to this day. So yeah, put that in the mind. You know, like people are riding around in horse and carriage, and here I am even trying to complain. I'm not really complaining about it, but just letting you know you might complain about it. The lack of rigidity and, you know, how tin can feeling this car feels at times. This car really is one of the funnest cars I've ever driven. Like, if this car did have more power, it had like a supercharger or something, there's not many other cars that really would want to rip down a back road in, if I'm being honest. Which I have been this whole time, so. Now, a lot of people will say the Miata is a poor man's S2000, which is partially true. Like, if you told me if you could live with one car every day and that's your only car, Mazda Miata, older Miata, like we'll keep it older Miata, 99 Miata, or S2000, I would pick the S2000. But that being said, if you told me modified Miata with a supercharger attached to it versus S2000, I don't know. I'd have to drive that Miata, but I've been in modified Miatas, and I might. I don't know. That's a tough call. That's a toss-up. So stock Miata, yeah, the S2000 I would take, but so is it a poor man's S2000? I mean, yeah, in a way. I think most Miata owners would buy an S2000 if they could afford it, or if they were given the opportunity. But then that being said, would I rather have a newer Miata over an S2000? Yeah, probably. I mean, chassis-wise, yeah. Like they're lighter. I like the way they handle more than an S2000, especially a newer Miata. The only thing the S2000 I like more about it is that engine, the VTEC, the 9,000 RPM redline. Honda makes amazing engines. Their gear shifter is amazing, but it's awesome on the new Miata. So I don't know. Newer Miata. I'd probably go with the newer Miata. I mean, just probably would. I probably would suck it up, and I would miss that VTEC and all. I had a Prelude, loved VTEC. I'm a Honda fanboy at heart, but I probably would compromise and get the newer Miata over even a cheap S2000, even if price wasn't a factor in the equation. I just think the Miata is more fun to drive. You know, even this Miata, if I'm being honestly, like on a back road, besides the engine of the S2000 and other cars like the S2000, which there aren't that many, let's be honest. Scion FRS, S2000, amazing handling cars, good weight distribution, rear-wheel drive, lightweight. Would I take this car on a back road, like just pure back road driving, carving, handling wise? Yeah, I'd rather take the keys to a Miata. If you were like, which car do you want to take out today, buddy? Taking the Miata. I think it's the most fun to be on a back road on. It's not like I'm splitting hairs. It's not like the S2000 FRS are a ton of fun. The Miata is just a little bit more fun. It just handles, a little more nimble. It's the weight I don't know. It just has that formula, just a little bit more fun. Actually, the only other car that I might take over the Miata is made by Mazda, and that's the RX-8. That's probably the only other car I've hit on a back road that I went, yeah, this car, that's a whole other topic in itself. I love the RX-8, and that's probably the only other car that I really feel could outdo a Miata, and it's made by Mazda. But that really just is a bigger Miata with a rotary, and yeah, I know it's just amazing. That car is awesome, but it's again still the Miata's smaller and it's sharper when you turn in, so there's benefits to the Miata. But overall, I probably would take the RX-8 on the back road over the Miata. But then again, if I, putting that top down, it's tough. It's a tough call. Yeah, we're just wrapping things up here. How do I like the Miata? Yeah, I like this car. Do I want to keep it as a daily driver for much longer? I don't think so. I think I might relegate this to a second car, or get a newer Miata, or just give up my time with the Miata and just get something a little bit bigger if I can only keep one car. Yeah, if I could keep this car, I'd probably keep this car for a long time, or if I did upgrade, I'd just get another Miata. But like I said, the newer Miatas, you know, they've done enough improvement on them in terms of, you know, being a little quieter, definitely way more rigid, little bigger, you know, stuff like that. Like, it goes a long way, daily driving, and I probably could live with a newer Miata and be fine. I definitely could daily drive a newer Miata and have no complaints at all and be happy. But this car, it's like, yeah, I've been doing it 6 years, and it's like, I don't know, you know, I don't know, it's wearing me out here and there. But like you said, I still love the car. It's still hard to replace this car. The only thing I could replace this car with is another Miata. Final thoughts on this car? Yeah, like I said, if you're not worried about the size of it and how vulnerable you're going to be, and you know, you might die in this thing if you get hit by even a normal car, then yeah, get it. You know, if you're not worried about the safety of it, like I said, if you're used to motorcycles, or like I said, you just don't care, you're like, yeah, whatever, it's not that safe, and I feel really vulnerable, and you might not feel vulnerable, you know, everyone's different, but yeah, get it. It's like, you know, you don't mind, obviously it's two-seater, not a lot of space, but now if it's your second car especially, like, even, you know, like, yeah, no brainer. There's really nothing that competes with this car, unless you just want more power, like money for money. There's nothing that competes with this car. The Mazda Miata, can't beat it. It is the answer, as they say. Not always, but it's definitely not always the answer, but it's the answer most of the time. If you're trying to have fun, that is. It's the answer if you're trying to have fun, the Mazda Miata.